Welcome to Birdseeds. I'm going to get into a topic that I would consider pretty sensitive, especially anybody that knows me for a long time. Um, and I'm going to get vulnerable, and I think it's really important. And I had a huge realization, and that led to really a lot of pride about something that I was kind of ashamed of, embarrassed about in my past. And um, I think ultimately led to a lot of growth and hope and motivation and belief in myself and realization, etc. So a lot of people know that prior to real estate, I was in a different industry. I was in the music business, and I had started a company when I was in college to, really kind of do music a different way. To give power back to the artists instead of the record labels and the big machine. And as a musician, I was in the music industry myself as a performing artist, and I really just didn't love the way that it was. So I myself and a couple partners set out a way to do it better. We believed that there was a better way to do it. And we ran this business for about 7 years, and we failed ultimately. As an entrepreneur, as somebody that took the risk and built this thing out, unfortunately we failed. And the reason for failure, there were a lot of things stacked against us. It was 2008, the economy was rough. People didn't have extra income, and we were certainly a product that was for up and coming artists with extra expendable income. There were a lot of reasons and things that went into it. At the end of the day, it was our fault. We were young, and we didn't know how to adjust, and we didn't know how to do things a certain way. So I'm going to be, again, super vulnerable here. I had a lot of shame about failing on this business. I really was upset about it, and it held me back for a long time. And I was explaining to somebody what we did the other day, and I kind of got super excited. And really, if I think back, like, why did we, basically I thought back why I started that company, why I got into it. At the end of it, we were really trying to be profitable. That was our goal, right? It's business. But in the very beginning, it wasn't about that. It was about disrupting. It was about doing it a better way. It was about not just taking the way the industry had abused the performers and the artists and saying, no, there's a better way, and we're going to do it. And again, we ultimately failed, but I think back on it, and we were the first company around, at least that I'm aware of, that put music into iTunes without being a record label or selling you another product. So obviously record labels were putting stuff into Apple Music or iTunes and mp3.com back in the day, and Amazon Music and Rhapsody and Napster, the second version of it, and all these names that I'm dating myself by throwing out there. And, but originally the only people that were putting the music in there were the big five that turned into the big four major record labels, and then independents through distribution agreements with those major four, and an alliance that opened up for the record labels to be able to sort of negotiate as the smaller labels negotiate as a big company. And that was all cool. And then there's another company called CD Baby, and again, dating myself there. And they would allow independent artists to put music in the MP3 stores, but you had to buy 1,000 CDs or 500 CDs or whatever that number was. I think it was 1,000, but don't quote me on that. It's been quite a long time. So you had to buy it, and you could then put the music online as a second service. But we were the first ones that I'm aware of that you could come to, not buy a single product from us. If you had artwork, you had masters, and you had a barcode, which were the 3 things required to upload, we didn't charge anything up front. We just took a cut of the royalties. And we were the first ones out there to do that. And right around the time that we unfortunately, didn't make it, there was a company that showed up in the marketplace called TuneCore. And they were really sharp looking. They had a slightly different model than we had that may be slightly more artist friendly. But you could tell they had a budget. They had money behind their product development, behind their launch, and they were the big dogs all of a sudden. Well, guess what? It turned out, after a little bit of them being on the market, they were owned by Sony. And I never slowed down in those moments to think about it. And that's not why we went out of business. It was another contributing factor. But again, we were young and not the best at what we were doing and managing books and all that kind of stuff. It was a contributing factor, don't get me wrong. but it wasn't the end all be all. And I never slowed down in that moment. And to be frank, I never slowed down after the fact to think about like what that really meant. It was just a panic at the moment of, oh my gosh, they have more money behind this. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no, and panic. But I was explaining it to somebody the other day, and again, I thought about it in a different mode. And now that I'm really working on my mindfulness and slowing down and being present, being in the moment, I went, holy crud. We had such an impact on the music industry market that Sony Records created a competitor to our product. How wild is that? 25-year-old or whatever, well, I don't even know, 26, 27 at the time, maybe 25 at the time, 26, 27 when we finally gave it up. Somewhere around that. Started it when I was in between my freshman and my sophomore year of college. We created such an impact in the industry that we had one of the 5 major players, at that time 4 major players, develop a product to release to the market as direct competition to what we were doing. And now you look at the music industry. And as soon as I got out of it, I mean, I played music, I still play, I still do that kind of stuff, but I got out of the business side of it. I was just burned out by it. But if I take a look back and I look at the industry now, and I'm not saying this is all us, don't get me wrong, I'm not naive here. But you look at it now, I'm pretty sure TuneCore's still around. There's a company called DistroKid. It's a membership-based, an annual fee membership-based. But really, I mean, as an independent artist, especially with home recording getting so good, you could do everything on your own. I mean, at some point you need the big bucks to get into the full marketing and all that kind of stuff. But how many bands are independent bands that are out there, that are touring, that are putting out great music, that have great followings? They're crowdsourcing, the budget for recording and for merchandising, and they're using Kickstarter and things like that to do it. I mean, what a time to be a performing artist, to be a creative artist in the world where that sort of barrier to entry is not there. And I have to take a second and pat myself on the back and pat the guys that did it with on the back to say, we contributed to that. We did part of that. We created a movement. We helped create a movement in the industry. We tried to solve problems that we wanted to solve for ourselves and solve them for everybody else. Because if we have the problem, so did they. And we really did it. And I've taken the shame of like, man, we failed. This stinks. That's awful. To, I am so glad I did it. Of course I wish it was, never failed, but I wouldn't be where I'm at if it didn't fail. I learned so much in that time that I've been able to pour it into what I'm doing now that is so fulfilling. And that was so fulfilling because what did we do? We accomplished the goal we set out to accomplish. Our goals changed. Certainly they should. But our initial goal when we created that company was to do it a better way. And we did. I just wanted to share that sort of shift in perspective and, the creativeness and the problem solving and the not being afraid to take a risk and the not being afraid to do it a different way, to understand that the way it's been done is the way it's been done and it doesn't have to be the way it's going to be done. And yes, it's harder to do it a different way, but it's so much worth it, especially when you can make a positive change. Thanks for listening. It's Bird Seeds. I'm going to share some more stories from that because I'm kind of unpacking all that. And, frankly, I think I have a little PTSD from that business failing and I'm unpacking it. And, I'm going to share some more stories from that time of my life because it was super exciting and it was super fulfilling. And a lot of that has built what I have today. So thanks again, Bird Seeds. Hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. I'm going to push this out right now. It's Memorial Day weekend. You deserve it. Thank you to all the veterans that have helped create the freedom to allow me to be an entrepreneur. So thank you all. Have a great day. This is Bird Seeds.